Hello everyone, it is Evan from the Trade Risk on Wednesday, May 6th, and I'm here with a market recap video. There's been a lot of action, a lot of fast-moving markets over the past few days, so let's jump right in with our usual suspects. We'll start with the SPY, and today we saw some more downside continuation, but late in the day, the last half hour really, the bulls did manage to stage a bit of a bounce here into the close, and you can see, look at the three circles here. The last three times we broke below this 209 level, we've ended pretty much the same way with a pretty potent candle in each of these cases. So this was on April 17th, on April 30th, and then today on the 6th. You could see all of these were really wide range, sort of, in the past they were short-term capitulatory bars, where it was just a flush out of of recent longs, and then the following day you saw a gap almost above the previous day's action altogether. So the last two times this has happened, that was the scenario that followed. The next day, we gapped up higher, and the bulls did a little mini bounce, V-shaped, for a few days. So the big question is, will that happen again? I mean, below 209, where we are right now, is a bearish indicator in my book. That's a level of interest. You want to stay above that. We closed below it, so it definitely puts us on a, at the very least, a neutral standpoint, sort of a hands-off. Let's see what happens with this. On the other side of the fence, we are, a lot of markets were pretty oversold, especially on the lows here in the short term. A lot of sectors and a lot of individual names in general. So, tomorrow, like it always seems to be, will be a very interesting day. I think yesterday combined with today certainly puts a pause in the bullish step. There's been a slight change of character perhaps over the past 2 days, and you need to respect that. We came into the week tagging 212, and now all of a sudden at the lows today we're 6 points at 206 off of those highs. So a big difference, and that's a lot of movement in just 2 short days. So let's see what happens tomorrow with this bounce that the bulls put in late in the day, to see if it continues and to see if it can actually hold, gain traction. And again, 209, that's the level on the SPY that I'll be looking for a retest of, to see what the action looks like if we do manage to get there. And on the other hand, there's nothing stopping us from gapping lower, heading lower, perhaps retesting 204.50, which played a pretty important level back in March. So that's where we are with the SPY. Let's take a look at the small caps, and they were green today. So a pretty wide range day as well. If you look at the full action here on today's tail, we basically stopped exactly at yesterday's lows, and the bulls were managed to hold that, and that is certainly a constructive retest of yesterday's lows, and it's also a retest of this 120.50 level. And if you look at a weekly chart, you can see what that is. That was the top that we made back here in March 2014, in June of 14, and then December of 14, and ultimately where we broke out in January/February of this year. So it's essentially retesting a very important long-term breakout level that we managed to clear earlier in the year. So if the bulls can hold this, that would be certainly very constructive, and it's certainly a pretty necessary level for them to hold on to for the longer term time frames to stay in line on the uptrend. Let's look at the Qs real quick. And again, these guys, similar to the S&P, they were convincingly below yesterday's lows, and closed again with a bounce in the step here onto the close, but still not the healthiest formation. Look at a weekly chart, you can see just a lot of back and forth up here. It's still in an uptrend. You can see these are the fast moving averages. They're still in bullish alignment, but you want to see more of a clean uptrend to have comfortable swing longs on. This back and forth environment is a bit more tricky to kind of stay in the game here. So the Qs, I think, are at a very important level as well. The lows of today are going to be important. So 106, that's the level now that that really needs to hold here if they want to prevent another retest essentially of this big breakout 105 level. So let's look at some other markets now that we've looked at the indices. Next we'll do TLT first. This was a brutal day. Ever since breaking down from this range here, this has been in real tough shape. So, TLT certainly oversold here in the near term. Doesn't mean it can't go lower. If you look at a weekly chart, you can kind of see what happened here. We failed to retest the previous highs. We ended up rolling over, and we are legging lower. So it's almost like we're doing a measured move, just like we went from 138 down to 123. So about 15 points to the downside. If you take 15 off of the 132, that could be the target. We may need to retest this little mattress of support down here in TLT. But that one is struggling right now. Certainly could bounce any time now, especially coming into this previous support. But it's it's not my style of trading to try and catch a bounce like that. USO managed to hold green today. This one is continuing. It's grinding higher. It's climbing what some would call a wall of worry. It's had a tremendous downtrend on the longer term weekly time frame, and it is now staging a bit of a recovery here. And it has been doing that for the past about 8 to 10 weeks, the past 2 months or so. It's been grinding higher. So USO continues to, definitely today's candle put a little bit of pause. We gapped up pretty high. Up over 1% or 2% at the highs, and that was faded, so we did see longs take some profits into that gap up, but regardless, USO still looks good. 20 on the downside, 22 on the upside are the near-term levels I'd have on watch for USO. Now, natural gas, coming off of last week's real explosive move to the upside, it's hanging up there. It's hanging pretty tight, pretty pent up. The close today was not quite the most bullish thing that you could ask for, but we closed on the lows, still holding on this support level above 1360, and I think that'll be interesting for UNG to hold on to. I think it still looks pretty good here. Fast moving averages are still catching up, so UNG short term is still the benefit of the doubt in the bulls camp in my book. Gold closed about flat on the day. Still not too much to say about it, just kind of hanging around here. Silver, similar, it looks a little bit better. It's pushing up against this $15.90, call it $16 level. Let's see if it can get above that. It's still in this long-term holding pattern here, so I mean, until above $16.50, $16.90, something like that, it's just not too interesting to me one way or the other. Now let's look at some of the individual names that we look at. Apple, start with that, kind of snap this little trend line here that was holding as support now for multi-weeks, multi-month really. We closed off of the lows, but still down about 0.5% on the day. If you look on a weekly chart, it could have what looks like just potentially a double top here, right above 133. And this last bar here was earnings just a couple of weeks ago. So Apple, it's kind of tough to do too much with it. It's in a holding pattern. Short term, the trend is lower, but let's see if the bulls can reclaim back above 126 or so. It basically just needs more time. I don't see too much with Apple right now, one way or the other. We'll just have to give it a little bit more time. Google, same thing. It's just in this bigger, messy range. It is coming up to some pretty interesting level down here, right around 532, 533. I think that's a pretty interesting level that it needs to hold if it wants to kind of stop itself from heading back down to the lower end of this larger time frame range. So there's not too much in Google I would look at either. Netflix still holding pretty tight up here after its last earnings release. I think 555 on the downside, 573 on the upside is a tight range to have on watch. Otherwise, this one just needs more time as well. Amazon is trying to stage now, so this is another not quite a hammer, but looking like a nice little bounce off of a retest of the May 1st lows down here right around 416. So you can see its earnings gap. It's been fading off of that, so, probably long staking profits, so on and so forth. But it looks like they're starting to step in here right around 415. The selling pressure is drying up just a little bit, or at least that's the early signs of it anyway. Again, might need some more time still. Some of the fast moving averages now are catching up, so look for Amazon to take out a previous day's high. I think that's at minimum what you'd want to see if you were to, if you're looking aggressively to try and play a bounce here. Let's see if we can at least take out 422, take out today's highs tomorrow, tomorrow or in the future here. I think that could potentially give you a little bit of a spark to a return to the upside on Amazon. Now, Facebook closed up almost 1% today, which all things considered is pretty good action, but it doesn't say much given the past 2 weeks of action. Ever since its earnings report, it's been kind of just dismal, grinding lower here. It's below $81. It's trapped in now a longer term range here. It's going to just come down to see how this weekly bar ends up closing. You want to see it close. You want to see it get some legs here. Otherwise, it's just sort of dead money sitting in this range. I don't see too much with Facebook. Like a lot of these names, I think it just needs more time. Twitter, similar camp here, needs more time. It's still just... This one's still getting hammered off of this earnings report as well. You can see that it's still so pent up here to the down. There's still so much momentum in the selling pressure that it's still just, you could call it wedging lower. But $36 is the support level we identified a few days ago. And we almost got there on the lows this morning, and you can see a little bit of a reversal. So let's see if the bulls can step in here and stage some kind of bounce. I think Twitter will need a lot more time, so we just don't have it yet. Now, Tesla is reporting. Let me see if they reported. It doesn't look like they've reported yet. Maybe 4:30 Eastern. I believe they are today. It's not quite 4:30 yet. So Tesla, we are waiting to see what the earnings look like. Unless it's tomorrow morning report, but it is soon. So Tesla, again, in the near term, recently has looked really good. It's above 220. I like that. But let's see what happens after it reports earnings. I know Alibaba is again soon. I think this one is tomorrow morning. This one has just the opposite of Tesla, is basically dripping lower into earnings, whereas Tesla is rising into earnings. So this right now does not look good. I would probably be short this if it wasn't heading into earnings. I like the clean breakdown below $81, but with a big catalyst like earnings coming up tomorrow, I can't touch that. So we'll see what happens. It's sure to move the technical picture here. And finally, GoPro finally putting in a nice little hammer today, closed the gap off of its earnings report. So pretty, not the most bullish action you'd want to see. Opened up at $53 post earnings release, and then it just basically slid lower for the past 6 or 7 trading days. So the gap is closed. Let's see if that's all that was needed on this downside impulse leg, but for now I guess we'll see what happens off of this $48 level. And for some names now, I actually don't have many names right now. I didn't get too much chance to scan. I'll try and post some more ideas later today. First is ANTM. I actually got involved in this today. Got involved in it above this 155.65 level. Looks pretty good. Had a nice strong close. Pushed really strong here in the last 15 minutes or so. I think there's some conferences going on in this space that they might be involved in, so there might be some news that I didn't catch, but ANTM looks pretty good. If you look on a weekly chart, it's been in a pretty long-term uptrend now, going back to the beginning of 2014. It's consolidated nicely for about 6 or 7 weeks, and it looks like it might be trying to get going now, so keep that one on watch. If we do see some further action, bounce, strength in the markets tomorrow. Another name to have on watch is SOHU. It's staying pretty tight, SOHU. Ultimately it needs to get above about 69 and a quarter, but staged a 1.5% up move today, which was impressive, all things considered. If you look at a weekly chart here, you can see it's coming back into some supply here right around the $70 level, so keep that on watch. But SOHU looks pretty decent. And another name, I actually got long this as well, and this looks pretty good, snapping this this base here. This consolidation that it's been put in since March had an up 3.3% day today. I took some home long. Both of these positions still relatively light for me, so we'll see if this one can see some more upside follow through tomorrow. And that's all I have. I will probably do some more scanning this afternoon for some more trade ideas, so keep a lookout for that. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.